Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to be the first of at least a couple of discussions here on the Yukon. It's not nearly as well developed as the Red Lake Camp, but has all sorts of prospectivity and is really in its infancy as a gold jurisdiction, even though it's been rather well known since the Klondike Gold Rush over 100 years ago. Usual disclaimer statement, a bit of a map showing a very generalized tectonic section of where we're sitting. You can see Brewery Creek, one of our two major projects up in the Yukon, up in the northern part of the Yukon near Dawson City. This was a former heap leach producer by Viceroy. It was the first subarctic heap leach in the world, operated between 1996 and 2002 and was closed due to $250 gold prices, not due to the lack of ore. You see in the southeast the Three Aces project, a completely different type of deposit. It's an orogenic gold deposit, very high grade, quartz veins and shear zones, and this is where we spent most of our time working the last few years. A couple of other things I would like to mention are the Yukon Mint. This is an initiative that our CEO and full disclosure, my wife Janet, has started with the local indigenous community, whereby we feature native art and put it on some of the gold that we produce through our bulk sampling at the Three Aces project, giving some promotion to the artist as well as to our own endeavors. And also the Yukon Test Processing Facility. And this is where we operate at 50 to 60 tons a day, processing that bulk sample through only using gravity and water. No chemicals are used whatsoever, so we basically produce a green gold, and we've been able to achieve a better than 85% recovery. Market cap's about 30 million as of Friday's close. And we have, this can be a bit of the Rob McEwen show. He's one of our larger shareholders as well. And my wife and myself are the largest. Eric Sprott personally. Pat DeCapo, CIBC Private Equity owns quite a lot, and Albert Friedberg as well. Taken as a whole, that's over 50% of the shares with that group. As I'd mentioned earlier, or alluded to, is a strong progressive First Nation relation. Anything you're doing in Canada, and specifically anything you're doing in the Yukon, has to be proactive with the First Nations. You have to involve them. You don't have to simply acknowledge them and work to benefit them, but they need to be almost a partner with whatever you're doing. And we say a partner with a small p because whatever we do affects them. We're in their traditional territories, we're in their backyard, and quite frankly, if we don't make it worth their while and they don't want us there, there's really no way it's going to work. And so we really view it as a community effort. As part of this, you can see this was an Elders in Residence program wrap-up at the end of the year. One of the elders had mentioned that it's quite easy to come to a mining project for an hour and you can tell us all the lies you want to in an hour. And so the program was initiated by Mary Caesar, who you can see there, the last item, won the Aboriginal Trailblazer Award this year at PDAC, and will be featured prominently through the PDAC meetings. Anyway, she said, why don't we just come out and live with you for a while? So seizing on that, Janet initiated a program where we rotate in 4 elders from the 2 different communities locally, and they live with us for a week at a time. And we learn from them, they learn from us, and it's been an incredibly beneficial program for both sides. Going to talk a little bit about Brewery Creek. Here again, this one is the larger and most advanced project of the 2. It's 853,000 ounces of oxide, leachable, recoverable gold throughout the property when you combine the categories. We've been looking at improving, there's a 2014 PEA on it. We've been working to update that, improve it. Many of the factors have changed, and we look forward to moving this project forward again. I think you'll see some news coming out on it over the course of this year with regards to economics and also moving it back into the limelight. Certainly a lot of untested parts of the property as well, and nothing tells you that better than just pictures. So I don't know if we can kill the sound there. Thank you. This kind of gives you an idea. The properties in the Yukon are quite large. This one's 181 square kilometers. And the original discovery trend was along a thrust zone, which was called the reserve trend, still is. Most of the ore was developed along there. Since then, we've identified 2 additional parallel thrusts. We quit drilling in 2013 for about 5 years, not here again due to a lack of success in exploration, but due to declining gold markets at the time. You can see here in black are all of the old production areas. In red are all of the new additions we've made. And here again, when you see orange in general, it's oxide. gold mineralization. Here's a former pit that's been reclaimed. The reserve trend itself runs about 8 kilometers along strike, and then each of the other 2 parallel trends that are just being explored now. There is ore remaining under some of these pits, and we'll look to that. And this is an area showing quite a large area of oxidized mineralized material that hasn't even been sampled yet. So we look forward to getting our hands into that and seeing where it goes as well. Bottom line, almost a 1 million ounce oxide resource, and quite fertile area for increasing that. Just to give you a bit of an idea of how long it goes, I'm going to cut to the next slide. This shows the distance. Both of our properties are in the Yukon, but it's about a 15-hour drive from one to the other, so they're anything but next door. They're both road accessible. We've operated both of them through the winter, so it can be done. We aren't doing that this year, but we certainly have in the past. Now I'm going to tell you about the Three Aces project, which is the higher grade project in the southeast. Much more rugged terrain. This is the mountain that we call the Central Core area. It's draped by a 13.5 square kilometer soil anomaly. When we first came in here, there was no roads on the property. We've put in 26 square kilometers of roads, made about 35 gold and quartz discoveries, identified a number of shear zones. We've got about 30,000 meters of drilling into it. This was our last press release on some of our deeper drilling. Most of the drilling was near surface the first couple of years because we had as high as 4,000 gram material outcropping, 1 mile from a highway that's been there for 60 years. So to say the area is highly prospective is illustrated by that. And what we noticed this year is we've got great persistence with depth on these shear zones. And we've got a mineralized envelope of lower grade surrounding a much higher grade core of the veins. In this instance, we were able to drill down to 500 meters down dip and demonstrate persistence with depth and continuity. And this year we'll be continuing to do that, as well as work on our continuity along strike, where we have up to 4 kilometer strike length on a series of parallel structures. Distance on this is about 2 kilometers, going from the west to the east. And here again, these structures run for about 4 kilometers in a northwest direction. To augment things and also to move things forward in terms of our de-risking of the project, we've undertaken a pretty aggressive bulk sampling program. First one started in 2016. We removed about 770 tons of about 46 gram material and recovered just over 1,000 ounces of gold. That was some of the first gold that went into the first coin project from the Yukon Mint, which you can see at our booths here. We went in and then did some follow-up drilling. Here again for scale, from the 7 on the top of the page to the 3 at the bottom is about 1 kilometer, to give you perspective. The areas in pink were drilled on 5-meter centers to give us some better idea. We've got a very significant nugget problem in terms of our gold assays due to the high grades and clumpy nature of the gold. But then to really find out what we've got, we undertook a 10,000 ton bulk sample this year and ended up taking out about 9,800 tons. We processed about 6% of that. The sample is scheduled to run about 20 grams per ton. Should give us somewhere in excess of 5,000 ounces of gold this year. And our cost on that's about $500 Canadian an ounce. So while our main effort here is to understand the deposit, such as the first 2-meter bench that was put into this showed us a completely separate set of veins that don't outcrop at surface. We would have never seen them had we not undertaken bulk sampling. Also provides us a bit of revenue because of the high grade. And we'll continue to do that through this year with another 10,000 ton sample. Here's just a picture of our processing plant. As I say, 50 to 60 ton a day, quite simple. Basically, we're accelerating Mother Nature's processes and basically turning it into a placer. We're taking the hard rock, crushing it, and liberating the gold by gravity. And this is just a very brief video of the latest gold pour, which was in late last year. This bar came out to be about 300 ounces of doré. And while it's certainly not the focus, it's certainly nice to limit our dilution through augmenting our cash flow. One of the few exploration companies that actually has some income to help offset that. So we're quite fortunate in that regard. Yeah, 13,000 grams, and that bar there would run about 85% fine gold. And thank you very much for your time and attention.